Hey, it's Dr. Beth with Psych Downloads. I'm continuing this series called Should I Break Up with My Partner? And in this second part of the series, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you define relationship and partnership. So what I'd like to start out with, and I think it's going to be really helpful for you to have a computer available to take notes, or honestly, even just old-fashioned on paper and pencil. I think it might be really helpful just to document in front of you as we go through these exercises. And I invite you to hit pause during this part of the series so that you can really take time to answer these questions in real time as we go through the rest of this series. So to begin with, I want to invite you to do something that might be a little challenging. My guess is if you're watching a series called Should I Break Up with My Partner?, you're probably already having some relationship concerns. So what I'd like to do is ask you to not think about your partner. I'd ask you to just put your partner aside in your mind for a moment and write in front of you, what does relationship and partnership mean to you? When you think about the concept of partnership and relationship, romantic relationship, sexual relationship, what does it mean to you? What are the aspects of this concept in your mind? And write them down in front of you. This could be talking about what do you get emotionally out of relationship? What do you offer emotionally? What are the exchanges sexually? What does that look like, or asexually? What does it look like in your partnership when you think about, how you relate to finances, how you relate to household chores, how you relate to family? Do you have kids? Do you want kids? Do you believe in long-term committed partnership? Are you monogamous? Are you polyamorous? Think about what relationship looks like to you. What does relationship look like in terms of short-term goals? And what does relationship look like in terms of long-term goals? Is the type of relationship a codependent relationship where you need each other for all parts of life, where you're kind of a unit that doesn't function without the other part? Or do you want to have a more interdependent relationship where you're both pretty individual but you're able to support one another together? So I invite you just to take some solid time and sit with a piece of paper in front of you, and I invite you to pause this video at this time so that you can really figure out what relationship and partnership mean to you. So now that you've created a list of what partnership and relationship means to you, I invite you to have a conversation with your partner about what relationship and partnership means to them. And my hope is you're in a relationship where you can already have these types of conversations. If you're in a relationship where you can't have a conversation to process what's happening in your dynamic, if you can't even talk about the fact that you're in a relationship, if your partner can't take time out of their life to kind of sit down with you to talk about what partnership and relationship means to them, that may already be indication enough that this might not be a great relationship. But my hope is you're in a relationship where you can have more explicit and honest conversations so that you can better understand what does relationship and partnership mean to them. So you also could ask them to write it down. You could just say, hey, could you take 10 minutes and on this piece of paper, write down the ideas of what partnership and relationship mean to you? My hope is you might already know some of this information, but it's always worth asking your partner directly. Just what does it mean to them? What does the idea conceptually mean? What do they want to bring to a relationship? What do they envision about it? Because this is a really, really helpful exercise that so many partners do not do with one another. So I invite you to do this work and really think about what relationship means to you. And we're going to come back to this at a later part of this same video. But the second part of this evaluation process is to think about values. And so I invite you to Google search life values. There you will find lists and lists and many, many images of different types of life values. And this could be anything from religion to family to calm to academic pursuits to freedom. And I invite you to look at a list of life values and document on a piece of paper what your top 3 values are. What are your life values? What are the things that you utilize to value how you live your life, the type of life you live, and how to direct your decision making? And if you haven't done this before, I think this is a really, really great way to get to know yourself, because it's amazing how when we look at entire lists of life values, we kind of determine very quickly that some of them aren't very relevant for us, where others really jump off of the page and we really, really align with them. So I invite you to consider what your values are. And again, pick 3, because it's possible you have many, many values, but I really want you to focus and prioritize what your top 3 values are. Now, similar to what we talked about earlier, I invite you to talk to your partner to find out what their life values are. So you can either put the life values list in front of them or just have a conversation about it. It may already be that you know what your partner's life values are, or you think you know what your partner's life values are. And I really invite you to ask your partner to prioritize 3. So what are the 3 values that your partner most prioritizes? And so now, for the next part of this process, I invite you to think about, as objectively as possible, where your partner's definition of partnership and relationship, like what does it look like? What does their definition, or what does the meaning of relationship and partnership mean to them? And what does it mean to you? And I want to add that if you didn't talk to your partner to get an idea of what relationship means to them or what their life values are, it is really important that you determined their end when you're in a very calm, very regulated, and very soothed state of being while you were creating your vision of what you think their values are or what relationships mean to them. So now that you've created that, or you've obtained this information from them, I want you to really objectively just look at what relationship and partnership means to you and what relationship and partnership means to them. Are these 2 things similar? Are these 2 things different? Where do they align? Where do they misalign? Because so often we overcomplicate whether or not a relationship is a good fit for us, but sometimes we don't just stop to check in whether or not our ideas of what partnership and relationship are even the same. And if you've determined that your idea of partnership and relationship looks different than your partner's idea of relationship and partnership, it might be something worthwhile for you to consider whether or not you should end this relationship. You are an individual and your partner is an individual. You both have the freedom and the ability to pick the type of partnership and relationship that works best for each of you. So if you're determining that what relationship means to you and what relationship means to your partner are different, or they're not aligned that much, or maybe there's only 50% overlap, maybe this isn't the right relationship for you. So I really invite you, as objectively as possible, to think about whether or not those 2 meanings and definitions of relationship or partnership really align, or whether or not they misalign. Because if they misalign, there may not be any amount of work or effort you could put into this partnership to kind of merge these 2 versions of partnership together. So this may be an indication that maybe you should break up with your partner if these aren't very similar. But if they are similar, maybe that gives you an indication that there's a lot of alignment between the 2 of you. Now I'd like you to go back to the life values. What are your top 3 life values, and what are your partner's top 3 life values? And now look at them. Are they the same? Are they different? Are they even compatible? So I invite you to look at the 3 values that you wrote and the 3 values that you've identified for your partner, and really ask yourself, do the people who have these values really have a likelihood to be in a relationship that meets their values and their needs? Perhaps your partner's values are career achievement, ambition, and efficiency. Perhaps your values are serenity, calm, and authenticity. You might be able to identify, based on these differences in your values, that there might not be a lot of alignment between the two of you. It could be that some of the conflicts that you're getting into, or some of the disappointments you have, may be coming from differences in what your values are as people. Now, this doesn't mean that your values are better or their values are better. It just means that you may be with somebody who doesn't align with you in terms of your values. And it can be really difficult to be in a healthy, long-term, meaningful relationship when values don't align. Because what it means is when you make decisions, even small decisions that you just make every day about how you live your life, if those decisions are made from 2 different value systems, it's likely that there's going to be conflict between the 2 of you. And so while you might be okay working through conflict frequently throughout your relationship, this also may be one of the reasons that you're having difficulties in your current relationship. After looking at the relationship meaning and the life values that you have, and the relationship meaning and life values that your partner has, I invite you to consider whether or not there is alignment and similarity between these, or whether or not there is difference. And I really want to highlight that a lot of people make excuses for their partner a lot. Oh, well, they didn't mean this, or oh, because of their background or how they grew up, that's why they made this decision. And you're doing too much work. If you're making excuses for how your partner values aspects or decision making in their life, maybe this is not the right relationship for you. So I really hope that you can objectively look at relationship meaning and life values and get a little bit more insight to determine whether or not you should break up with your partner. So in the next part of this series, I'm going to talk a little bit about how you show up in your relationship and how your partner shows up in your relationship. I appreciate you watching this video. I hope that you will subscribe to my YouTube channel. Find me there at Psych Downloads. Follow me on Instagram at Psych Downloads, and like Psych Downloads on Facebook. Thanks so much. I'm Dr. Beth.